to be fixed right now, and that the Aam Aadmi Party government, either in Delhi or in Punjab, cannot escape from this fundamental responsibility that it has towards the people of Delhi. The court also said its patience, it's running thin, and that the existing provisions of the law are enough to book those people who are indulging in stubble burning, which is contributing to a substantial degree in pollution in the national capital. The Aam Aadmi Party continues to insist it's not so much Punjab that's the culprit this time around, it's Haryana and Uttar Pradesh, but the court would hear none of it. The question, and this is the bottom line, how long are we going to get caught in this political blame game? Because at the end of the day, the people of Delhi have voted for a government, and it's the job of that government to fix that problem. That is the opinion of the Supreme Court as well. But first, the story so far.
This is the Kartavya Path, and in fact you can get an idea of the visibility that Rashtrapati Bhavan, which in general days is visible from this particular spot, is invisible today.
केजरीवाल जी से कहूँगा कि इस पर राजनीतिक नौटंकी जो करना है वो नहीं होनी चाहिए। आप वो राजनीतिक नौटंकी में बड़े माहिर हैं।
सुप्रीम कोर्ट का ऑर्डर आने के बाद एक बार हम उसको स्टडी करेंगे, या जो ऑर्डर में सुप्रीम कोर्ट का निर्देश आएगा उसको फिर इनकॉर्पोरेट करते हुए उसके अनुसार हम अपनी योजना को बनाएंगे।
All right, I want to first bring you up to speed with what the Supreme Court's scathing observations were today. Remember, I told you at the top, it pulled up the Delhi government, the Punjab government, the Haryana and Uttar Pradesh governments, as well as Rajasthan, saying it's their job to fix the pollution problem as far as the national capital is concerned. Also, the court was very clear in its opinion today that stubble burning is a major factor behind pollution in Delhi at this time of the year. The court also went on to say that Punjab, Haryana farm fires are solid reasons behind the Delhi pollution spike that we see every year at this time of the year in the last 2 weeks of October, the first couple of weeks of November. The court also went on to say your job is to stop stubble burning, take immediate action. Farm fires cannot be a political battle all the time, and that's what's been happening between the Aam Aadmi Party and the BJP, one blaming the other shifts the blame back. The Delhi government must act swiftly to fix smog towers. Remember, there was a smog tower inaugurated a few years ago at the cost of 20-odd crore rupees, right in the heart of the capital. That's not functioning right now. The Delhi government must not allow the open burning of solid waste. That's also what the court has opined today. The Delhi government's odd-even scheme, which is set to introduce the day after Diwali from Monday next, that is simply optics, is how the Supreme Court has characterized this. Now, the Aam Aadmi Party keeps pointing its fingers again and again. First it was Punjab before they came to power in Punjab, and now they're pointing fingers at Haryana and Uttar Pradesh when it comes to stubble burning. But the fact of the matter is the real culprit and the big culprit is the state of Punjab. And here are how the numbers stack up as far as the various states are concerned. November 1st, Haryana had 99 farm fires. Punjab had almost 2,000. On the 2nd of November, Haryana had 48, Punjab had 1,600. It came down to 1,500 and 1,300, but look at November the 5th, 3,230 fires in Punjab, just 109 fires in Haryana. So this apples to apples comparison is not quite fitting because the Aam Aadmi Party says that Haryana and UP and other states are responsible, not so much Punjab. 3,230, by the way, is the highest single-day incidence of the number of farm fires. No state has ever managed to top that. Now, if we go deeper into Punjab itself, and which are the districts that are most notorious for stubble burning, again, you will see a pattern here. You will see something that stands out. Remember, there have been over 17,000 fires since the last couple of weeks of October this season, this stubble burning season in Punjab. And if you look at the district which has the maximum number, Sangrur, which is the Chief Minister's home district, Bhagwant Mann hails from Sangrur, 2,698, almost 2,700 incidents out of that 17,000 have happened in the Chief Minister's home district. Then there is Firozpur at 1,800 plus. There's Taran Taran at 1,762. Amritsar at 1,432. Patiala and Mansa at about 1,200 or so. So the question is, where is the political will? If in the Chief Minister's constituency there's almost 2,700 farm fires in the last month or so, then where is the political accountability for that? Delhi's pollution crisis is making waves not just in the country but in the West as well. Climate activists are using Delhi's example for major cuts in carbon emissions. British climate activist Robin Boardman has tweeted, and this is part of our Motorola India's best 5G smartphone brands tweet of the day.
Hello, Moto.
This is what Boardman has said, and I'm quoting from the tweet. 33 million are choking in India. Air pollution kills 8 million people annually. In Delhi, it has shortened lives by an average of 10 years. Across the world, it has shortened life by an average of a year. When will the smoke stop? When will we rise up against fossil fuels? Now, that takes us to our big debate tonight on Brass Tacks, and that is, can the Aam Aadmi Party, despite what the Supreme Court had to say today, the abject censure of the Aam Aadmi Party and its government in Delhi, can it still continue to shift the blame?
Hello, Moto.
All right, joining us this evening on the Talking Point, Shazia Elmi is national spokesperson of the BJP, Abhinandita Mathur is spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party, Dr. Bharat Gopal is director and head of Department of Pulmonology at the Delhi Heart and Lung Institute, and Vikas Singh is a senior advocate of the Supreme Court. He in fact appeared in the case today on behalf of the petitioners. But let me start with you, Abhinandita Mathur. This is not a political party or a political rival saying this. No less than the Supreme Court of India today has come down on your government saying it is your job to fix the stubble burning problem, and you have to do it now, and it can't be a political blame game all the time. What is your response to the Supreme Court and also to the people of Delhi who are asking you those very same questions that the Supreme Court today asked of you?
Thanks, Doctor. First of all, I'd like to, acknowledge that any pollution, any harm that is being caused, we take our side of the responsibility. We are committed to working to reduce pollution, and I'm going to speak with a lot of sincerity and humility. So I will not do politicking. But having said that, it is important to understand that this is not just a Delhi problem or a Punjab problem. This is a North India problem, and I think any environmental expert would also tell us that it's not about it's not about shifting blame to anybody else. But the fact is that we have to look at how all the governments, whether it is the government of Delhi, Punjab, Haryana, UP, and the central government, what is it that they have done in this time that has resulted in, where we are today. And it's not a matter of 1 year, 2 years. We have unfortunately reached this situation. I am reporting to you that we have worked day and night in Punjab to reduce the farm fires by 50 to 60% this year. And I can assure you that we are on it, and we will make sure that some of these problems that are very deeply rooted in the agricultural practices, at least from our side, we will make sure that we provide the alternatives to the farmer.
The problem is, when you say that farm fires in Punjab have come down, there's also a bit of disingenuity there, because this year what has happened is, because of the delayed rains, the sowing season has been delayed and therefore the stubble burning has been delayed. So what normally used to happen in the last 2 weeks of October, that's now shifted to the first 2 weeks of November. So now is when you're going to see much more farm fires. As I showed in that graphic before we came to this discussion, 3,200 plus fires happened on a single day on Sunday. That's the highest for a single day number of incidents of farm fires. So clearly, you're shifting the goalpost by saying, oh, you've done everything you can, 50% come down. No, it will not be 50% come down by the end of this Parali burning season.
Not at all, actually. I'm not saying it. I'm not shifting the blame at all. In fact, I'm starting out by saying that we do take our share of, the responsibility, and we'll tell you the steps that we have taken and that we want to take. We need short-term and long-term measures to resolve this. Please understand. And whether it is the short-term measures or the long-term measures, at least we have something to tell the people what we have done. Can you tell me, can you ask the BJP spokesperson what Haryana has done or what UP has done? Look, farm fire, Parali burning is a very deep-rooted agricultural problem. And we are taking along the farmers, we are trying to provide an alternative. Unlike, let's say, Haryana, who are filing FIRs against the farmers.
By the way, the law in Punjab, there is a law in Punjab, and this is preceding the Aam Aadmi Party's time there. When Amrinder Singh was in power, he brought this law, 5,000 rupees fine and simple jail term for any farmer who's found stubble burning. Nobody implements that because there's a simple reason in this country: nobody wants to touch the farmers. The farmers are a vote bank. That's whether it's for the BJP or the Aam Aadmi Party or the Congress or any other party, Akali Dal, that's the simple reality. Whereas Delhiites breathing toxic air are not a vote bank.
No.
It's a 2, 3, 4 week problem, and Delhiites will forget about it, and so will the Aam Aadmi Party. There's no political cost to pay. That's the reality. But let me ask Shazia Ilmi to respond to what the Aam Aadmi Party has been saying, that while they're trying to fix Punjab, what are you doing in Haryana? What are you doing in Uttar Pradesh? Your party is in power in those states, and those states also have farm fires, not to the extent that Punjab has, but certainly they do have farm fires.
Yeah, so if you were to look at figures, it would be 3% of the fires in Punjab that would attribute to Haryana. So 3% is a number, is the percentage of Haryana farm fires compared to the bigger number. But let's not even go there. Now, this is classic Aam Aadmi Party playbook. When you found absconding, not responding, ineffective, completely useless, at the wrong side of administration and governance or implementation of basic schemes, what do? You make it into an ugly political slugfest. I want to tell everybody, this is beyond politics.
Rich coming
this
from
is about
the BJP spokesperson.
No, one second. One second. One at a time. Let Shazia speak. Yeah, thank you.
Yes. So I did not. So this is classic Aam Aadmi Party. On every issue, this is what they say. But others are doing it. This is exactly what the Supreme Court clarified and specified today. That, listen, this is the same party in power, both the places. Not just that, something people are not mentioning now, but even the MCD in Delhi, which used to be responsible for water sprinklers and other things, is also under Aam Aadmi Party's jurisdiction, and it is under their control. So I don't see any reason why it should be about a conflation of issues. So it'll become about vehicular pollution, it'll become about construction. There's a cause and there's an effect. What is the cause? Everybody knows it is the Parali, the stubble burning that is happening. So let's just address that, which is exactly what Supreme Court has said. And not just that, Bhagwan Man's own constituency, as somebody pointed out, in Sangrur, is burning right now. Arvind Kejriwal and Bhagwan Man are roaming around all over the countryside for political tourism and trying to get votes. I think it's highly unethical, ineffective, and rich of the Environment Minister Gopal Rai to say, oh, now that we have Supreme Court has said that, we will study it. Is there any time to study? Isn't it shameful? That's something we should have been prepared for, and because this is something that afflicts us. This is 9th year running. That instead of this work being done 3 months earlier, it is being done today. I mean, it is so shockingly pathetic and irresponsible. And they are just useless.
I think it's high time. It's high time. One second, Abhinandan, one second, please. I think it's high time that the people of Delhi who voted for the Aam Aadmi Party, they voted your party in power, Abhinandita, and this is a perennial issue. It's not a one-year problem. This has been happening ever since you came to power for the last 9 years. The point is you need to fix it. You can't say UP is doing this and Haryana is doing this. Suddenly what is Delhi's problem has become a North India problem. No, come on. You know, accept some responsibility and do something about it. Even the Supreme Court is asking you to do something about it. Let me...
10 seconds.
Yeah,
Can I respond?
Zaka, just 10 seconds. I want to say something that, you know, if this was a matter, if the center was responsible or Haryana was responsible or Rajasthan was responsible, then tell me, why did Arvind Kejriwal promise this and that he would make it better, and not just that, blame Captain Amrinder when he was in power?
Yeah.
If it was not in his control, then why blame Captain Amrinder before you fight elections?
No,
Once
absolutely.
you come to power,
when you were campaigning in Punjab, you said, हमें पंजाब में सत्ता में आने दो, हम एक हफ्ते में बंद कर देंगे, एक महीने में बंद कर देंगे. You haven't done that. You're in power in Punjab for over a year now. Vikas Singh is a senior advocate in the Supreme Court. In fact, he appeared in the court today. He was the arguing counsel on behalf of the petitioner. So I want to ask you, Vikas Singh, the court came down very heavily on the Aam Aadmi Party government, both in Delhi as well as in Punjab, saying it's your job to fix the stubble burning problem. It can't be a political blame game all the time, and it's your responsibility to do so. And the time to do that is now, not, you know, next month or the month after that. Tell us, though, the context in which the Supreme Court made these observations today. It was so incensed, seemingly, at least for us, you know, reading copies about what happened in court today. It was so angry that it said, you are elected to do this job and you have to do this job now. You were in court. Tell us why the court said what it did today.
Stubble burning has become a big problem in Delhi for the last about 5-7 years. And Supreme Court had the occasion to deal with this issue in 1819 and again in 2021. 1819, a statement was made that we are going to do something very fast and this will not happen in the next year, etc. And the High Part Committee meeting, etc. was directed to be held. When nothing happened, another petition was filed in 2020 when the Supreme Court was so upset that it appointed Justice Madan Lokul, if you remember, to be a one-man commission to oversee that there is no stubble burning. But the government was not happy with his appointment, so they immediately came out with a new law, which is to control the air pollution in the NCR region. And they said that we are bringing out a new law and we are creating a statutory institution which will look into all these affairs, and accordingly, Justice Lokur may be not asked to start this work. They have a GRAP 1, GRAP 2, GRAP 3, GRAP 4. Today we are on GRAP 4. So they have the highest forms of restrictions imposed now. But in none of these GRAP, there is any mention of stubble burning or any effort to even discuss or resolve this stubble burning issue. They have full authority to issue whatever direction they can under Section 12 to the neighboring states also to ensure that Delhi doesn't get polluted. But they have done nothing for these last 3 years.
Okay.
In these various GRAP meetings or these statutory meetings that they've held. So that was very upsetting for the Supreme Court to see the act, and once they saw that they have all the powers and still nothing is being done. So that is why they said that now we have to step in, and that is why I insisted that it should be banned today, right now, because farmers' problem can't overtake the lives of millions of people living in Delhi.
Absolutely, and I'll come to that point. I think it's a very valid point you're making about Section 12 within GRAP, which allows express powers to the Delhi government to issue instructions to neighboring states in case the pollution gets so bad that it's threatening the people of Delhi. But let me get Dr. Bharat Gopal also into this conversation, because I'm sure, Doctor, this is something that you contend with every time, this time of the year between sort of mid-October to mid-November, just a few weeks on either side of Diwali. What are the sort of cases that you're now dealing with? What do you tell these people? Because I'm sure many of these patients that you're seeing are also repeat patients. They come to you every year at this time. So it must be frustrating also for them, as it must be for you, I'm sure, to deal with the same recurring problem every year for the last good 10 years or so now.
Yeah. Thank you for making me part of this show. And I think the few points which you have raised. I think, like you said, 10 years. The first show probably I remember it was 2005. So it's
Yeah.
been quite a while since we have been discussing, and with all due regards to all my politician friends, I think we have been, as stakeholders, probably somewhere we all have heard. The civic society has heard, and the politicians have heard likewise. They are representatives of our society only. Like you said, it's actually quite disheartening not only to find those repeat patients every year, but the new patients which are coming in. And these newer patients tend to be younger every year. So I think if you mark those words, what we are getting are new people who are coming into the OPDs with some sort of respiratory problems. And unfortunately, earlier it used to be we used to talk about extremes of age, very young children, very old people, people with comorbidities. Now, for last few years, say it may be 2019, leave apart those COVID years, and last year, and now this year, there has been a tremendous number of younger people who are coming, who are probably exposed most to the pollutions because they are outdoors. So they
Yeah.
have been coming in with a lot of coughs, which are unrelenting and continuous despite your usual methods. So if you ask me what can I advise people, I think the best is to stay indoors, which is a very
Hmm.
bad advice actually, because that means the we are now exposed to that level of air quality where we have to probably go down into a state of lockdown like we went for COVID, which
Yep.
we knew that could kill. So we are almost equating air pollution to that type of level. You gave those figures of people actually losing years of life, not only in India, globally. But
Correct.
we are a case in point where probably Southeast Asia has the most burden of air pollution, and there are statistics showing even 5 to 10 years of life loss on an average life expectancy. So that is quite disheartening.
I mean, it's a
As a
real
doctor,
shame
as a
if people are losing 5 to 10 years of their lives because of this pollution problem. And it's an easily fixable problem. It's not like this is an intractable, unfixable problem. It's an easily
absolutely.
fixable problem. So,
And Zaka,
yeah,
just a minute, there
sure.
are models across the globe which were very polluted and which have actually overcome with
Yeah.
good stakeholder participation across all board. So
Yeah.
I think it is not something which cannot be done. And this is what we all are saying for last 10 years, but we stand here discussing that again. So I hope
You know,
now
the US
times come
ambassador
probably.
mentioned this in one of the speeches a few days ago, where he said he grew up in Los Angeles in the 50s and 60s,
Yeah,
and LA used to be a very polluted city. They fixed that problem. London used to be a very polluted city in the 50s.
very bad.
They fixed that. I used to live in Beijing 10, 15 years ago when it was a
Yeah,
very
so you
polluted
would know
city. They
how
have
bad it was
fixed that
10 years
problem
back.
as well. So it's not an unfixable problem. But Abhinandita Mathur, you know, let's leave the politics aside. What Vikas Singh said and what the doctor said, and I think what the doctor said has should really ring through home. Earlier, there used to be a time when people who had respiratory trouble, who had a history of respiratory issues, they were the ones who were most vulnerable. You know, young people, as in like younger children or elderly who were coming. Now, young people, healthy people in their 20s and 30s are increasingly coming to doctors like Dr. Gopal because they are the ones who are exposed to this air. I mean, don't you owe the young people of Delhi, the young people of the national capital, as to why you're not able to fix this problem? I mean, if people are losing on average 5 to 10 years of their life, that's a matter of utter shame. And frankly, that's on your hands as well, Abhinandita. You have to unmute. You've gone silent.
Sorry. I have to just repeat one point so that we are not running away from our side of our part of the responsibility. Like, give me one moment to hear me out patiently. There are many things that contribute to the pollution in the NCR and North Indian region. At this time, it is specifically hazardous, toxic, unacceptable, and it is caused by the palm fire. But it's important to understand that there are steps that are being taken. Perhaps Punjab government is the only government that has managed to reduce it by 50%. Please understand this. I'm not saying that anybody in North India deserves to breathe this. Out of the 50 topmost polluted towns, 20 are in Haryana. Please understand that just by blaming the Aam Aadmi Party will not actually solve the problem. If we are serious about solving the problem, if that is your intent, even in this show, then let's look at in a constructive way. Look at what the other states are doing or what other countries are doing. I'm not, for example, so much hoo-ha about the smoke tower. Do you know that there were two smoke towers? One was made by the Delhi government and the other was by the central government, which they were boasting about. And both have been shut randomly by an officer who reports to the LG. So whatever, the political narrative that is reaching the people is selective. Having said that, throughout the year, we managed to get,
one
just a
second.
minute,
Just
just a
give me
minute.
30 seconds, please. I think it's important for the people of Delhi to know this. The smog towers, the chief minister went and inaugurated it, right? There was a whole bunch of hoo-ha about it. No, one second, let me finish. Just give me 30 seconds. He went and inaugurated it and he said, with this it'll all be set to rest and Delhi's pollution problem will come to an end. He went and inaugurated it. Within a few years, it's defunct, right? No, wait, one second, ma'am, please give me 30 seconds. Second, the court had pulled you up a few years ago saying Delhi has an appalling number of public transport buses. I think at that time it was about 3,000 or something. Right now it's about 7,000. But Delhi needs at least 15,000 buses. Where are those buses? It's your job to procure those buses. We don't have any of those buses. We were talking about electric vehicles. What stops the government of Delhi from saying anybody who is going to buy an electric vehicle, if you're going to give up your old car and buy an electric vehicle, we will ensure that you get a subsidy for it, or we will ensure that you get an interest-free loan for it. What is stopping you from coming up with these solutions? Nothing is stopping you.
Actually, I'm surprised that everything that you're counting as, what we have not done, we have actually made those measures. And, the doctor on the panel would also agree that, which is why we have better air days. Because there are multiple things. We are improving public transport. We are, making sure that there are lakes and wetlands that are developed in the city. More than 200 of wetlands in the city.
Yeah,
These are
my dear friend,
solutions. At least we have the humility to make those.
Shazia,
I'm so sorry, Shazia ji. Those are political arguments.
One second, one at a time. Abhinanta, you made your point. Let Shazia respond now, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
Shazia.
So I'm saying let's not drag everybody in this slugfest, which is being made to appear political, but actually everybody has fixed responsibilities and they have the respective jurisdiction. There is a central pollution board, there is a Punjab pollution board, and there are various institutions in place, whether it's NGT or Supreme Court or Delhi High Court or various agencies. The fact of the matter is, let's not confuse the issue just to muddy the waters. Now let's see. Another thing the Supreme Court said today was that all this thing is optics. So isn't it quite insane to subject Delhi into this odd even thing? They've also banned now BS4 and BS3 compliant cars, which means cars as old as 5 years are not being allowed to be applied on the roads. And this is being seen as just optics. Shouldn't have there been a plan earlier? And also one more thing. Now, if my learned friend from Aam Aadmi Party feels that centre should do more. I mean, I remember what happened in COVID. I remember 15th June 2020, when they said, first after all the bravado, they realized that they can't do it. And they went to the centre and said, look, we can't do it. Disband your environment ministries in Punjab, in Delhi, and say, no, we cannot do it. Help us, because this year again we will fail you. We will again have all kinds of answers, but we will not know how to stop stubble farming. At least be honest about it.
So let me get Vikas Singh, and the point that you made, I think it's a fascinating point, Vikas Singh, that section 12, I believe, or clause 12 of the GRAP allows the Delhi government to make those instructions to neighboring states. For some reason, they have not done that. Also, this issue of farmers, and we know that this 1 month between mid-October to mid-November is particularly bad in Delhi. And the only thing that changes in Delhi at that time is, A, the weather gets cooler and the winds are stiller, and there is stubble burning. And no one wants to touch the issue of stubble burning because farmers are a vote bank. And nobody wants to touch them. No political party wants to touch them. In fact, talking about laws that are already existing which just need to be implemented, and I said this earlier in the program as well, there is a law in Punjab. Amrinder Singh brought this law in Punjab. Anybody found stubble burning, 5,000 rupees fine and a jail term. You know why nobody goes to jail? No farmer goes to jail for stubble burning? Because nobody wants to implement it. The police, the environmental ministry there, the pollution control board there, the officials whose job it is to implement this, do not want to do it because the farmers are a big vote bank. Whereas Delhiites, bad air for 2 or 3 weeks, that's okay. That's a problem everybody can deal with. I mean, they themselves will forget about it after those 3 or 4 weeks.
I would, guess that would be the real reason, because ultimately, I don't see why they will allow people of Delhi to suffer like this, where, children are suffering, schools have to be closed, and work from home is being encouraged, online work is being encouraged. All this can't be done, without there being some very strong reason for them to not do what they're supposed to do. Either we say that they don't understand what is to be done, or they don't know what is to be done, which is too far fetched to accept that they really don't know the real problem. So everybody knows the problem. It's just that they feel that stubble burning is an issue for 10-15 days. In fact, today, incidentally, when the matter was called out, I was told there is a letter circulated by the government. They wanted an adjournment. So 1 week adjournment here, or then we get into the Diwali holidays and it goes after Diwali, and then the weather improves, the AQI becomes better, and this issue is forgotten. Then again, next year, the same whole rigmarole will start and same problem will start for Delhi. So the effort is somehow to pass these 10-15 days with the suffering, regardless of what huge impact it has on the health of the people of this city. And so it's a little insensitive in many ways, I would say, because you have to also look at the human angle in such a health. Health has always been considered to be a top priority for any government, and if they still want to expose the citizens of Delhi just because farmers is a vote bank, I think it's a very sorry state of affairs.
That's really sad, isn't it? I mean, the Aam Aadmi Party prides itself in health and education being the two areas where it's really amped its game up, and that's the reason why they've been voted back to power and so on. But if pollution is not a health issue, I don't know what a health issue is. Dr. Gopal, I'll give you the final word. You mentioned earlier that perhaps the only solution is to do like a lockdown that we saw during COVID. Do we have to go to that extreme, shut down Delhi for a period of a month or 3 weeks or whatever, however long this pollution problem exists? Because again, we're going to have Diwali. I don't think there's going to be any less crackers being burst this time. The farm fires are going to continue. Like I said, the sowing season has changed, therefore the stubble burning season has changed. So I really don't see any hope, even odd even, that they're implementing. I mean, the pollution problem is now. Odd even is going to start from the day after Diwali. I mean, what is the logic? What is the logic of that?
So I think I don't want to be misquoted. What I said, that if you ask me what is the solution that we don't get exposed, that is that we stay indoors, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, lockdown will not be a solution. We know what the whole world went through during COVID. That was the actual lockdown which occurred. I think it's sad that we speak like this, because as a lot of us have discussed in the last half an hour, is that we need to find a permanent solution. All these things which we do, when we start seeing this darkness in the atmosphere. I'll beg to differ with the Miss Mathur, because she said we have good air quality days. Yes, definitely, because we are comparing with 400, 500 AQI. Do you know what are the good quality air days when we follow up the AQI? That is like 150, 200. Now, what do we need as a human being as per WHO? Best is less than 10 or at least less than 25. So it is not that they have dramatically changed. We are a landlocked city. Delhi NCR will have these geographical issues always. So the decisions which we'll have to take would have to be a lot of stakeholders looking at engineering things, stubble farming, vehicular construction. All those need to be pitched in. There cannot be one solution to prevention of pollution. That's what I believe over the last 10 years.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much to all our guests. Like I said, even as a television anchor, I mean, I've been doing this same topic at the same time of the year for at least the last 10 years. And sadly, one would hope that at least next year you don't have to do it. But unfortunately, I'm not going to bet on not being able to do one of these shows next year, because I don't think this problem is going to get fixed next year either. Talking about intractable problems, we'll take a break, but when we come back, it's been a month since the beginning of the Israel Hamas war. Where does that war stand right now? What is the objective and what costs are Israel and the rest of the global community willing to pay to achieve that objective? I had an exclusive chat with Lisa Curtis. She's the director of the Indo-Pacific Security Program at the Center for New American Security, on the ramifications and the geopolitical flux, particularly even countries like India have had to readjust their positions in the aftermath of the Israel-Hamas conflict. That exclusive conversation right on the other side of this quick break.
Hello, Moto.
Visibility that Rashtrapati Bhavan, which in general days is visible from this particular spot, is invisible today. And in fact, when we talk about the conditions in the national capital, so we know that how the fourth level of graded response action plan has been invoked. Several sort of measures, several sort of steps have been taken by the state governments. In fact, schools have been shut and all other things. In fact, yesterday, Environment Minister of Delhi announced that how Delhi is going to implement odd and even scheme for the vehicles here. After that, a lot of deliberation is onto the fact that how there are several factors that are contributing to the pollution levels in the national capital. Once again, if I can show you the view, there you see people have come here for the morning walk, in fact for the cycling. But as of now, because of the pollution problem, experts say that this condition is very dangerous, very harmful for not only those who have some sort of respiratory disease or respiratory problem, but also for those who are healthy people. As of now, everyone is looking forward to all these steps taken by the government, because people here in the national capital are waiting for some sort of relief, that they are looking forward to government that they will take some sort of step, and after that Delhi will get some sort of relief from this particular pollution problem. I'm joined by a group here at India Gate who has come a long way from Pune to Delhi. आप लोग मुझे बताइए, साइकिल से आए हैं पुणे से दिल्ली तक, और दिल्ली में तो प्रदूषण है, तो किस तरह से अब आगे देख रहे हैं और क्या कुछ कहना चाहेंगे इस पूरे कहें कि जो कंडीशन बन गई राजधानी की?
इधर तो हवामान बहुत खराब है. हमारे उधर महाराष्ट्र में पोल्यूशन नहीं इतना बहुत ज़्यादा है.
महाराष्ट्र, लेकिन अभी तो महाराष्ट्र में भी एयर क्वालिटी इंडेक्स बढ़ने लग गया है.
हमारे उधर अच्छा है, इससे
बेटर है.
इससे बेटर.
क्या आपको लगता है कौन जिम्मेदार है इस समस्या के लिए, इस परेशानी के लिए कौन जिम्मेदार है? सरकारों की जिम्मेदारी है या फिर ये लोग जिम्मेदार है?
नहीं सर जी.
हाँ, कौन जिम्मेदार?
इसके लिए किसी एक को जिम्मेदार नहीं ठहरा सकते. इंडस्ट्री तो है ही, लेकिन हम आम लोग भी इसमें जिम्मेदार है. जैसे कि हम गाड़ियाँ ले रहे, गाड़ियाँ भगा रहे रोड के ऊपर, थोड़ा भी अगर चलना होगा तो हम गाड़ी लेके चलते हैं. इससे अच्छा है हम थोड़ा सा साइकिल का भी उपयोग करें. जैसे कि हम लोग अभी पिछले 4 साल से कर रहे हैं. कोरोना में जब फर्स्ट लॉकडाउन हुआ था उस टाइम पे हमने साइकिल चालू की थी, लेकिन कोरोना में जितने भी बीमारियां हो गई उसमें हम में से कोई 10-12 लोग, इसमें से कोई भी इतना बीमार नहीं हुआ उसके बाद. और तब से हमने जो साइकिल चालू की, अभी 4 साल से पिछले साइकिल चला रही है.
पिछले साल हम बालाजी की राइड किए और इस साल 1,500 किलोमीटर चला के.
नहीं, साइकिल आप चला रहे हैं सेहत के लिए, लेकिन उसी सेहत के लिए बहुत बड़ा खतरा है ये पोल्यूशन. आप जो एक्सपर्ट हैं वो तमाम लोग सलाह देते हैं कि बाहर ना निकलें. आप साइकिल तो बेशक सेहत के लिए चला रहे हैं, लेकिन जितना सेहत के बचाव के लिए काम कर रहे हैं उतना ही सेहत खराब हो रही है बाहर.
नहीं, वो तो है, लेकिन साइकिल चलाना हमारा रोज का ही मकसद है.
अच्छा, आप लोग अलग अलग काम
साइकिल चलाते हैं ना, तो साइकिल के वजह से हमको प्रदूषण का ज्यादा प्रभाव हम पर नहीं पड़ता है.
अच्छा,
क्योंकि हमारा ताकत बढ़ गया है.
हाँ.
साइकिल चलाने.
बेशक साइकिल चलाना अच्छी बात है, लेकिन मेरा दरअसल सवाल ये है कि साइकिल तो आप अपने कहें कि सेहत के ध्यान में रखते हुए चला रहे हैं, लेकिन उसी सेहत पे कहें कि कितना बड़ा खतरा है.
So it's exactly a month since the horrific October 7th attacks, the terrorist attacks in Israel by Hamas, and in response, Israel's launched a massive operation, first by air and now over the last week or so, limited ground operations, where its objective is to try and incapacitate Hamas to the point where it cannot undertake the kind of attacks that we saw. it's not as if the world did not already have one war to contend with. Many are now calling it the forgotten war between Russia and Ukraine, and people are already talking about a potential third theater involving China and Taiwan. To try and make sense of what is an increasingly complex world where old established orders are getting challenged and new emerging players are putting their hat in the ring saying they need to be taken seriously. To try and make sense of this complex world, I'm joined by a very special guest here today on Brass Tacks. Lisa Curtis is the director for the Indo-Pacific Security Program at the Center for New American Studies. Thank you very much for joining us and coming all the way to Noida to our studios. So thank you for making the trek up all the way. Let's start with the Israel-Hamas situation because, like I said, it's 1 month since the attacks and then Israel's response. What is your best understanding of where things stand right now? And more importantly, how does this play out in the near term?
Well, like you said, we're 1 month out from the completely barbaric attacks, terrorist attacks by Hamas on the Israeli people. Israel had the right to respond to these attacks. Israel received strong support from the United States, one of our closest allies. Also, India has supported Israel and its right to respond to terrorism. India has its own terrorism challenges. But right now, I think where we are is, Israel has responded, and there is growing concern about civilian casualties in Gaza. And I think, the U.S. president has a very fine line to walk. He wants to be supportive of President Netanyahu and supportive of the Israeli people, but at the same time, there are growing concerns about the lack of medical supplies, medical facilities in Gaza to treat the wounded. We're seeing a lot of pictures of wounded children. So I think that the U.S. is, now strongly calling for a humanitarian pause. Of course, a lot of countries are calling for a ceasefire. I don't think President Netanyahu will go for a ceasefire. But what we can do is really press for more protection for civilians, to protect that civilian life. There has to be critical attention to this. We have to see, the laws of armed combat followed by Israel. And I think this is what the U.S. is pushing for now.
I'll come to that in just a second, the difference between a ceasefire and a pause and whether or not it's feasible. But you talked about India and the position that India has taken. I think Prime Minister Modi was one of the first world leaders within the first few hours of the attack, exactly a month ago to the day. He came out and pretty unequivocally took Israel's side and said we're with the innocent victims of terror. What did you make of that? Because it was slightly different from the traditional position that India has always taken, which is, two-state solution, we're all for the Palestinian cause and so on and so forth. But to sort of drop that baggage from history, would you say? What did you make of the swiftness and the change, or at least the nuanced change in position taken at the highest level of the Indian leadership?
Well, I wasn't too surprised. I think the the Indian-Israeli relationship has become so much closer in the last decade or so, and the ties are very close. So it's different, I think, than in the past, and what India's position might have been in the past. The relations have become very close, and also India has experienced its own terrorism, and so I think that Prime Minister Modi both recognizes the closeness of the Israeli-Indian relationship, but also that India has no choice. It has to support countries in their own fights against terrorism because India has its own terrorists to contend with. So I think in that sense it wasn't completely surprising. I think from the United States perspective it was a welcome position to so strongly back the Israelis, the Israeli people, who had just been terrorized by these Hamas attacks, which were completely unacceptable and barbaric. And we all saw the images of children being killed in front of their parents, parents killed in front of their children, kibbutzes attacked, very innocent Israeli civilians suffering this completely unjustified terrorist attack. So I think the Indian position, to me, was not surprising, even though it may have been a bit different than it would have been, say, a decade ago.
And what would you attribute that to? What this change that's happened? You said 10 years ago any prime minister in India would not have taken that position, but today the current prime minister has. So what do you attribute that change to? Is it because India itself has had its own 26/11 and these repeated attacks that we see in Kashmir, which is backed by the Pakistani, or at least established sections of the Pakistani establishment? Is that why you've seen this change of position?
I think so. Even Indian friends that I have in Washington, D.C., their first reaction was memories of 26/11. This totally evoked their own memories of the terrorism that they had faced, and frankly raised concerns that this would inspire other terrorist groups to do something similar in India. So I think that is the main reason. Prime Minister Modi knows how devastating those attacks were for India. The memories are still there, and these October 7th Hamas attacks completely evoked those memories. And so I think that's really the main reason, and also a commitment to the relationship with Israel, which has grown. There's defense ties, technology ties between the two countries, and so a certain amount of sympathy for the Israeli people at their time of crisis.
So let's talk about the Indo US relationship. We have the 2+2 dialogue that's coming up later this week. Clearly, American officials have their plates full with not just what's happening between Israel and Hamas. You also have the Russia-Ukraine situation. You have the Indo-Pacific. What is your reading of where the Indo-US bilateral stands at this given point of time? And more importantly, in the wider Indo-Pacific, are we seeing a convergence between not just the US and India, but also countries like Japan, South Korea, even in Southeast Asia, countries like Indonesia and so on? Are you seeing a sort of closeness of interests and a closeness of strategy by all of these countries in the Indo-Pacific specifically?
Yeah, I think the U.S.-India relationship is at one of the highest points it's ever been. You had a successful Prime Minister Modi's visit in June. President Biden came here to the G20, showed strong support for India and its leadership role. India playing that role of bridging the divide between developing and developed nations, really strong show of support for India. And now with the 2+2 next week, the fact that, Secretary Blinken has so much on his plate with the Middle East crisis, but he is taking time, he's coming to India to participate in the 2+2, that shows how important India is and that the Indo-Pacific region remains important. The U.S. can't afford to take its eye off of the Indo-Pacific region. Obviously, huge distractions with the Middle East war, with Russia's war in Ukraine. But the point is, in both of those conflicts, one could argue that deterrence failed, that there was not the attention, in one case among the Europeans to predict Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the over-reliance on Russian energy. And then in the case of Israel, they had taken their eye off the ball with regard to Hamas and its plans. And so we can't afford to take our eye off of the Indo-Pacific, because then we risk China being more aggressive, particularly in the Taiwan Strait. We've already seen China consistently violating the midline in the Taiwan Strait, crossing over with its jets, crossing into Taiwan's air defense identification zone repeatedly. So we simply can't take our eye off the ball. And also the administration has taken so many initiatives in the Indo-Pacific, not only with India. India is a critical part of that, but also with Japan, with South Korea, with the trilateral between US, Japan, South Korea, which took place at Camp David in August. With AUKUS, the deal to provide Australia nuclear-powered, conventionally armed submarines. All of these initiatives need to continue their momentum. Because they're all part of deterring China. and that
you made
remains
an interesting
important.
case about how, both in the case of Russia, Ukraine, and maybe in the case of Israel Hamas as well, a case can be made that deterrence didn't actually work. How worried are you that that might unfold in the case of China Taiwan as well? Deterrence is working up until now, but what's the guarantee that it will come 2025 or 2027 or even 2029? These are important milestones for China, and they have said publicly that by the time it celebrates 100 years, the PRC, reunification by whatever means possible. So are you worried that conventional deterrence may not work in the case of China Taiwan as well?
Well, of course, there are no guarantees, but if we don't exercise deterrence, if we don't invest in our partnerships and alliances in the region, then I think we can be guaranteed that China would take advantage of the situation. So we need to keep the investments up, not only in the technology race in terms of investing in our own technology industry at home, but also working with partners and allies to win that technology race. There are concerns about China being able to use emerging technologies like AI toward its defense capabilities, and we simply must stay ahead in that game. And when it comes to Taiwan, I think supporting Taiwan is important. Providing them the military capabilities that they need to defend themselves, extremely important. The Quad, also very important to keep the momentum with the Quad going so that these four powerful maritime democracies can shape the Indo-Pacific environment, maintaining free and open seaways, free flow of trade, and allowing the countries in the region to maintain their own independence and sovereignty. All of this is very important. There are no guarantees, but at the same time, I think there's a pretty good chance that we can be successful in deterring China, or making China assess that the cost of a military invasion of Taiwan would be much higher than any gains it would receive. Let's face it, in the end, President Xi wants to remain in power, so that is one of his driving ambitions. And so I think if we can, convince him that there would be far more costs to him and his leadership than gains of invading Taiwan, then that's really the best we can hope for.
So in that context and with that background, we know that President Biden and President Xi Jinping will be meeting in California later this month on the sidelines of the APEC summit. What is the status of the relationship? Are they just managing in a way that crises are being averted? I mean, these are the two biggest economic and possibly military powers in the world. What is the status of the relationship right now?
Yeah, I think you said it right. It's a matter of managing the relationship, putting a floor on, how far relations will deteriorate. Because I don't think either country wants conflict in the end. They're competing fiercely with each other, but neither side wants to see conflict. So I think this upcoming summit between President Biden and President Xi is all about keeping the lines of communication open, keeping the dialogue going. And I don't expect any major breakthroughs. I don't expect a major rapprochement between the two countries. But I do expect things to be a little bit calmer between the two, which may suit both President Biden and President Xi as President Biden embarks on an election campaign.
Correct.
China probably would not want to be a major election issue. I think it's inevitable, but at the same time, they may want to see China less of an electoral issue, which could maybe only mean problems for them in that the Republican Party may argue that President Biden hasn't been tough enough. So, perhaps this is an effort to calm the waters before the U.S. gets into a very volatile election season.
You were talking about President Biden going into elections. It's an incumbent president fighting re-election. There are already two active wars. There is Russia-Ukraine, and there is now Israel Hamas. and particularly this war seems to have sort of divided American society. I mean, we're seeing this in college campuses, we're seeing this in protests outside the US Congress. It's tough enough for incumbent presidents to face re-election with one war. Now there are two. How does he navigate this?
Yeah, I think you raise a good point. There are major protests in the United States. The people are seeing the civilian casualties in Gaza, and this is troubling to them. So again, President Biden needs to walk a fine line here, showing support to Israel, but also showing that we recognize that civilians are getting caught in the crossfire, and there needs to be greater effort to protecting civilians in Gaza. You contrast that with, after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, there was widespread American support for the Ukrainians.
Correct.
You saw Ukrainian flags going up, on houses
Absolutely.
throughout the United States. So this is a little bit more divisive for President Biden, and I think it is going to be difficult to manage this moving forward. Not to mention, making sure it doesn't spread to a wider regional war. This is a very complicated situation, and I can see that this will be an election issue, the Middle East war.
Sure. One final word. I know foreign policy analysts loathe, crystal ball gazing, especially given the events of the last 18 months or so. You had the Russia-Ukraine war and now Israel Hamas. Are you seeing a trajectory where Russia, Iran, China are now fundamentally sort of aligning in a way that they are threatening what has been an established order for the better part of the last 70 years, led by the United States and its allies in Europe and in Asia. But there is now a fundamental challenge to that order.
Yeah, I think what's particularly concerning is the Russian-Iran axis that's developing. Iran providing weapons for Russia's war in Ukraine, and Russia support to Iran. Even we can see it in this Middle East situation right now, that the Russians are tending to side more with Iran. And that is worrisome. China-Russia relations, that's concerning. They've recently increased their collaboration across many different fronts. And so, we'll have to keep an eye on this. But I think China is more cautious when it comes to Iran, because, China has concerns about, terrorism, extremism in, its western provinces as well. So I think that China will tend to be a bit more cautious when it comes to supporting Iran. But at the same time, it's clear Russia, China, Iran, all three of these countries want to undermine U.S. global influence, and they will go to a great extent to try to do so.
All right, Lisa Curtis, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much once again for joining us here in our studios at CNN News 18.
Thank you for having me.
बारे में बताइए, उसके विषय में बताइए।
अभी ये हुआ ही कि इसमें से ये जो प्रदूषण हो रहा है ना, इसमें से जो छोटे बच्चे हैं उनके ऊपर ज़्यादा इसका इम्पैक्ट हो रहा है। जैसे कि आप देखें कि अभी दिल्ली में, हम महाराष्ट्र से दिल्ली आ गए, महाराष्ट्र में कम था। हम मानते हैं कि मुंबई पुणे में ज़्यादा हो सकता है, लेकिन जो हम एरिया में रहते हैं, विलेजेस में रहते हैं, वहाँ पे प्रदूषण कम है। और यहाँ पे आने के बाद हमें पता चला कि दिल्ली में इतना प्रदूषण होता है। फर्स्ट
राजनीति भी हो रही है। जो बीजेपी और आम आदमी पार्टी सरकार हैं, वो एक दूसरे पर आरोप प्रत्यारोप कर रही हैं और एक दूसरे को जिम्मेदार ठहरा रही हैं। आपको क्या लगता है, क्या ये सही है? राजनीति होनी चाहिए प्रदूषण की, कम से कम ऐसी समस्या जिससे कहें कि पॉलिटिशियंस भी प्रभावित हैं, उन लोगों के परिवार और वो लोग भी प्रभावित हो रहे हैं। आपको लगता है कि राजनीति ठीक है? नहीं,
राजनीति इस मैटर में ठीक नहीं है, क्योंकि हम सब लोगों को एक साथ जुड़ के इससे सामना करना चाहिए। अगर हम एक दूसरे को कोसते रहेंगे और एक दूसरे के ऊपर ये जिम्मेदारियां डालते रहेंगे तो ये कभी ठीक नहीं होगा। अगर ये सरकार बोल रही है, अगर बीजेपी वाले आम आदमी को बोल रहे हैं और आम आदमी वाले बीजेपी को बोल रहे हैं ना, तो ये सोल्यूशन कभी नहीं निकलेगा। हम हर एक को एक साथ खड़े रह के हमें ये प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करना।
With pollution levels lingering in the severe category, Delhi is struggling for fresh air. I am standing at Kartavya Path, and behind me is the iconic India Gate. This spot has become a prominent spot to check the visibility, and as of today we have a better visibility. You can see India Gate in the backdrop where you are able to see India Gate from 200 meters, but on the other side we have Rashtrapati Bhavan. In fact, this is the Kartavya path, and in fact you can get an idea of the visibility that Rashtrapati Bhavan, which in general days is visible from this particular spot, is invisible today. And in fact, when we talk about the conditions in the national capital, so we know that how the fourth level of graded response action plan has been invoked. Several sort of measures, several sort of steps have been taken by the state governments. In fact, schools have been shut and all other things. In fact, yesterday, Environment Minister of Delhi announced that how Delhi is going to implement odd and even scheme for the vehicles here. After that, a lot of deliberation is onto the fact that how there are several factors that are contributing to the pollution levels in the national capital. Once again, if I can show you the view, there you see people have come here for the morning walk, in fact for the cycling, but as of now, because of the pollution problem, in fact experts say that this condition is very dangerous, very harmful for not only those who have some sort of respiratory disease or respiratory problem, but also for those who are healthy people. As of now, everyone is looking forward to all these steps taken by the government, because people here in the national capital are waiting for some sort of relief, that they are looking forward to government that they will take some sort of step, and after that Delhi will get some sort of relief from this particular pollution problem. I'm joined by a group here at India Gate who has come a long way from Pune to Delhi. आप लोग मुझे बताइए, साइकिल से आए हैं पुणे से दिल्ली तक, और दिल्ली में तो प्रदूषण है, तो किस तरह से अब आगे देख रहे हैं और क्या कुछ कहना चाहेंगे इस पूरे कहें कि जो कंडीशन बन गई राजधानी की?
इधर तो हवामान बहुत खराब है.
Hello, Namaskar. This is First Post and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. Today is Tuesday, 7th November. Do you remember what happened on 7th October? It was a Saturday. We were here at work, tracking in horror what was happening some 4,000 kilometers away. Israel had been attacked. With every passing hour, the death toll went up. Israel's legendary defense force stood exposed on that day. They took what seemed like forever to respond. But once they started, they did not stop. It's been 32 days. They've been pounding Gaza, razing the strip and killing more than 10,300 people. In the early days, the world stood in support for Israel. But as the civilian